So while I'm sitting here sewing Pointe Shoes, already started this one, I thought that I would do an updated video talking about my experience with ballet, like how I got started and all those things, because everybody's story is different. And that might help go into, you know, kind of explaining why I've been able to do certain things I have been that other people maybe just beginning haven't yet. I don't know if that makes any sense. But anyway, and I am sewing a new pair of Block Heritage Strong. I already sewed this one, and then at the time I had taken them downstairs to do while we were watching a movie and realized I only cut 2 ribbons. You know, you need 4. And I was not in the mood to go get a new pair, so. Anyway, I'm gonna cut some ribbons. I think all in here. I'm running out. I usually buy like elastic and ribbons in bulk because it just makes sense. I think this is the end of my ribbons. I have one sample one that I leave out so that I know how long to cut my ribbons each time. So anyway, so when I started, like everybody else in the world, I started ballet when I was like 3 years old. My mom put me in ballet. My mom actually did a lot of dancing in ballet, which is funny because she doesn't really, when I got really into ballet as an adult, she didn't really understand it, and I kind of was like, really? I thought you would understand this. But she did it all the way up, at least somewhat, until after I was born, which she was in her 30s at that point, but she was doing it more at that point in like musicals and like community theater. Because when I was little, she went to a thing that I always called Mommy's Dancing Work. And she was in Oklahoma and I don't know, other ones. So she did like Lori's Dream Ballet. And I don't know where that one came from, but I'm gonna go with this. That may be really short, but I'm gonna go with it. Anyway. Oh my gosh, is that the last of the ribbon I had left? Oh, it is. Oh, guys. I'm a mess. But so like everybody else, I started out in ballet when I was about 3 at a place called Don Meyer. Oh, that's good. And that is how I got into ballet originally. Trying to see which one of these is longer. Oh boy, we may run out of ribbon. I have bad ribbons that I don't like. So when I was at this studio, I did, you know, ballet and tap. I think that's all I did there. And then I think I only was there for like 2 or maybe 3 recitals because that's all I can remember pictures of. And then I think after that dropped out for a while, and I'm not really sure what I did after that point. Again, I was little, so I don't really remember, and I had other siblings that did things too, so there was just a lot going on. But I don't think I got back to ballet until I was in 4th grade. And at that point, I didn't go to ballet. I did jazz. So I went to a place called Anderson Dance Academy, which was just kind of a little like strip center ballet studio. My mom knew the owner because I guess her parents and my mom's parents were friends. So I think that's how she found out about it. So I went there for a while, actually a lot of while. I think I started ballet again there maybe when I was like in 5th or 6th grade maybe, and then I started doing more, I did a lot, because I did do tap it once there and I didn't like it, and I had to wear a little sailor costume for it. I was also in the like young kids tap class as like a middle schooler because I was a lot older, but obviously not at the level of being in the higher classes. At least in my ballet classes and stuff, I usually was the oldest, but I was like, because most people who'd been doing ballet were at my age were in the higher levels. But I moved up fairly quickly in some of those. Like in jazz, I moved up really quickly, and then tap, I quit. Ballet, I was just kind of because again, not being born with like the feet for ballet and the turnout, it just kind of affected my ability to do stuff, and it still does. So I did a lot of that. I think my first pointe class, which that was a whole interesting thing, was in probably 2000. So that was probably about when I started pointe, because I think my first recital was like 2001 or 2002, I'm not sure. But so that was also, that's part of why as an adult I was able to go on easier, because I'd already been on pointe. I also saved my pointe shoes, even though they were awful and I don't know why I was ever fitting them. I saved the ones I had been wearing and still used them occasionally, so my feet were still used to wearing pointe shoes. Now the key is, and I don't want to badmouth the studio, although they're not there anymore. They sold it, and then after that, they went out of business. I was never properly trained there, so I literally did not know what sickling meant, or like half the things that I was doing. Like I thought, oh, I have these great extensions, I can get my leg like up to here. But everything else was turned so funky to do that, and I never knew that that was wrong. Like I never knew how to properly do like ballet technique. So I think that's what really hindered me, because I had all this ballet experience, but I wasn't really trained well. I didn't know that until many, many, many years later when I was doing ballet again in my late 20s. Yeah, had to think about that. I'm 34 now, so I'm like trying to think. So I then I did a lot of dance in high school. Basically, my mom said at that point, I think I quit like my sophomore year of high school, and my mom basically had said, like, you are in so many sports between dance and then stuff at like school, because I was in marching band, cheerleading, gymnastics, dance team, theater, and then doing dance as well. And she was like, you have to pick, you can't do it all, we can't afford for you to do it all, and you don't have the time. So I chose to do the school stuff because to me that was more important. And I felt like I was better at those, to be honest. So I did, every other year I did gymnastics or dance team. I literally had to pick one each year because I couldn't do both. And then I don't think I really did any ballet classes again until probably around 2013. So I graduated high school, no, wait, hang on. I forgot I took a couple in college just for credits. So I graduated high school in 2007. I did probably in 2008, that's probably the only year like that I probably took any, because I think I just took one ballet elective and it was interesting. And when I was at OU for a year. And then I don't think when I was at Miami, I don't think I took any. So then like 2013, I think I was in grad school, so I was living back at home, and my mom agreed to go to an adult ballet class with me at a studio we'd never been to. I think it is called Gotta Dance. It's still there. And it was fine, and they let me wear pointe shoes there. So I kind of got really interested again. I went and got fit. This time I was fit, not wearing the Grishkos anymore. Now I was finally fit in block European balance, which I felt like worked better for my feet. And they still do technically, they just don't look as nice on my feet. So I did all that, and then I think we did that for maybe a semester. And then after that I decided, I'd like to be in recitals and things again. So I went back to Anderson Dance Academy. At the time it was still there, owned by different people, and I joined a ballet and pointe class. They made you take both. So it was like ballet was one class and pointe was another class. That's how they did it. And so I had to do both in order to do pointe. I had a better experience, I feel like, for the most part, because like I had better shoes, but I still wasn't being trained well and taught well. I was so much older than all the girls. Like I was in grad school at this point, and all the girls were like in like high school, barely. Some of them were seniors, but I just felt so weird in that class. And then right before the recital, I really badly sprained my ankle because I was coaching gymnastics at the same time and was doing an aerial and landed funny. So I still did the recital on pointe. I probably shouldn't have, but I did. But then after that, I kept my stuff and I took it with me. Like a year or so later was when I graduated and I moved to North Carolina by myself. I took my stuff with me. I had like 4 pairs of pointe shoes with me, I think, at the time. Looks like nothing compared to the giant box behind me there. And I just kind of did stuff on my own. I actually had an apartment with a nice hard floor, which is really hard to find. And maybe like halfway through the year I was there, so I think it was probably spring by the time I decided to do this, I was like, I'm gonna go back to ballet. That is literally when I started my Allie on Pointe Instagram, but at the time it was like more of a like dance and gymnastics one, because I was taking adult gymnastics there, because they actually had that, which was really cool. But I got into a studio there. Actually, I went to one studio first, and it was okay. It was again kind of just like a normal adult ballet class where they kind of let you do whatever you want kind of thing. And they don't really give a lot of corrections because they're like, they're adults, we'll just let them. They let me wear pointe shoes, but they didn't really correct me. So this is like 2016 at this point. Still nobody has told me that I'm doing everything wrong. So then I finally went to another place, and this was called, North Carolina Academy of Dance Arts. in Greenville, North Carolina, which is like the middle of nowhere. Not a lot of options there. I actually ended up signing up for, I think I might have taken one adult class first, and then I decided to do privates with the teacher because I really liked her. She used to dance, I think, with Ballet Magnificat at one point. And then when she started working with me, it was like night and day. She was like, all right, and she was so nice about it, so sweet about it, like the kindest person. I got refit for Pointe Shoes again while I was there. I got fit in some gainers, which I actually still wear that one. They just I think having those shoes that I could balance in better and mold better worked well for me in the beginning. It's just as time's gone on, I've learned that I really can't work through those shoes as well because of my personal physiology with my feet, which is why Freeds work so well for me because I actually can work through the shoes. So I was in gainers at that time and I felt like I was doing so well. That's when I really started getting into stretching and buying dancewear, buying shoes, taking these classes, doing all this work at home and trying to better myself in ballet, taking all these photos everywhere. I would literally go out in the apartment complex area and take photos and look like a ridiculous person, and I didn't care. And that's just when I really, really got into it. It kind of just became a safe space for me when I was really lonely and just felt like I didn't know what was going on with my life. Because before I moved to North Carolina, I had been through a really, really bad breakup, and that kind of tore me apart. And I didn't, I moved to the middle of nowhere kind of to get away from that, but also because it was the only job I could find in audiology. And that didn't end up being the best idea because I was miserable because I had nobody there with me and I missed my family all the time and I felt like I was missing out on everything here. So I did not last there very long. And then when I moved back here, I was getting more into everything. I started taking class at Ponte Ballet Studios, which was about halfway between where I lived up in Mason and Dayton, where I was working. So I could do it on the way home from work. A lot of times it was I'd literally have to sit there for an hour or two, eat dinner in my car, and just wait for class to start, which that got a little frustrating sometimes, but for the most part, it wasn't a big deal because I didn't have anything else going on in my life really at that point. And then I would that's back when I was doing all the photo shoots all the time and everything. And I had a great teacher there. Miss Shelley, she was just the best. She was one of the most kind-hearted people who would just work with you in a way that was really productive, but also didn't yell at you or make you feel like you shouldn't be there or anything. She was so supportive and I just loved her. I'm still friends with her on Facebook, but she was great. And she was probably one of the reasons I stuck with it the way I did. So then that was getting hard for me just with work. So I also found a place nearby. Oh, I can't remember what it's called. It's in Maineville. But I took a semester, I think, or so of dance, an adult ballet class there. And I was in there, Nutcracker, technically as an adult in the party scene that did nothing. And I just kind of felt it was one of those places where I kind of felt I didn't love the teacher. She was really strict and very old-fashioned, and I kind of felt like she looked at adults why are you here? You'll make me money, but why are you here kind of thing, which I don't think is an attitude you should have. So I didn't last there very long. I also at the time started taking occasional classes when I could at Cincinnati Ballet, but that required me to either be off work so that I could drive down there during a time when there's no traffic, or be staying with my dad so that he could help me because the driving in the city freaks me out so much, even more so now than it did then. And I loved that too. And I think that or the next year was when I first took class with Courtney, who I am now good friends with, and I got to visit her in Salt Lake, and just it just made everything for me. And a lot of those classes have taught me a lot too. So I've taken a lot of classes from different people at Cincinnati Ballet over the years who also have taught me so much and just been so welcoming. I would highly recommend their adult program because I think it's probably the best in the Cincinnati area. There were a few places in the Cincinnati area that I contacted who did not want adults at all at theirs because they were too prestigious and they didn't want to deal with adults. I was like, okay. And then obviously you guys know the studio I ended up with for the last few years before I moved out here and then got married and everything. At the time, I had a great, what I thought was relationship with them and everything, and then that all kind of, you can watch my previous video on my adult ballet experience to hear more about that, because I'm trying not to let it keep me bitter towards them or anything. I'm trying to just move on from it. But that one, I learned a lot, But I also feel like that was hard because I was just getting yelled at all the time and felt like I was never gonna measure up. And I'm like, as an adult, that was not my goal. The biggest things I did that helped me so much as an adult in ballet have been when I went to England and met up with all the people doing the Adult Ballet Day that we did there, where we took a class at London Ballet Classes, which if you were anywhere there or ever near there, that is one of the ones I can recommend the most because they teach variations and it was amazing. We were only there for one class and we still got to learn it and it was so cool. I also took class at the Royal Ballet with Everybody Dance, I think, or something is what it's called. It was great too. That was so cool to dance in the studios that like Marianella dances and like, it was really cool. And then the other one was this intensive at Salt Lake. And Cincinnati Ballet did an intensive right before COVID that I went to, which was really great too. I would prefer mine to be more just ballet focused, which is the only thing about the intensives that was not as much my favorite. But that's just my personal preference. I would rather do an intensive that is only ballet and variations. I don't want to do Pilates, yoga. I don't want to do jazz. I definitely don't want to do modern and hip hop. Well, hip hop I don't mind as much. It's the modern, and it's the modern jazz kind of stuff that I don't like. Like the jazz like I used to do is what I liked, like dance team type jazz. It's just personal preference on dance styles. There's a reason that I don't usually go to any of the contemporary dance performances here. It's just not my thing. But yeah, I was in a few Nutcrackers, as you guys know, and then Giselle, sort of. I don't count that. I literally moved a bench. My parts got taken away the closer we got to the show. Again, you can watch that other video. But that's kind of where things are. I stopped sewing because I realized I need to try these on and figure out which shoe is going to get the tiny ribbon. I don't know which shoes for which foot yet, so. And then I need to darn them still sewed, so that's why I'm kind of just sitting here. It's easier for me to talk now at this point. But that's kind of where my experience is. And then obviously over all that time, I did a lot of things. Like I did a lot of photo shoots. I did a lot of trying different pointe shoes, which is why I have so many videos on them all on here. And, you know, trying all this different dance wear and things like that, because I just fell in love with ballet so much that I would literally just eat, sleep, breathe ballet. That was my life. I was watching all the ballet shows and movies, which I still do, but not in the same way, because I'm not going to force my husband to watch them all with me. He did enjoy watching The Nutcracker with Macaulay Culkin because he loves Home Alone, but I'm not going to like force him to do all those things with me. Now, occasionally I will just turn on Dance Academy for myself, because that's one of my like calming shows. But also like things like sewing pointe shoes, breaking in pointe shoes is calming for me. I haven't done as much lately, and part of it I think is because I know I'm so limited on my pointe shoes now for the next few years that I'm like, I don't want to break them in yet. I don't want to do anything with them yet. I'll just keep wearing the ones that are like dying. But I decided to sew this one because I thought I was going to wear it to that class I was going to go to a few weeks ago that I didn't go to. So they're already halfway sewn, so I'm like, at this point I might as well finish them. But that's kind of about where things have been for me for the last few years. I'm trying to think if there's any experiences or things I've kind of forgotten. I don't think so. I have a really old video about this, but that was back before I started doing more at Cincinnati Ballet and before I went to the studio that I was at before I stopped dancing. So there's been a lot since then. That was before I went to London, before I did the Art of Motion intensive, like all those things. So a lot has still happened in the last few years. I would say like my main ballet frame, like time frame of when things were big for me was probably about 2017 to like 2020. Because it was probably the end of 2020 when I moved and wasn't as motivated because I had that bad apartment that just had so many issues and was cold and gloomy. And then I also, that's about the time I started dating Brad, which I don't blame him. It's kind of like ballet was my fill my time before when I was lonely and didn't have anybody to hang out with or anything to do. And now it's like, I have a husband now, and like, that's really what I've wanted. And that's pretty much where I'm at right now. I still want to do all those things that interest me, but it's like I have another person with me now all the time too, which is great. We spend most of our time together. We also work from home, so we really do spend all of our time together. And we're just settling into marriage, you know, so this at least is a blessing that I have this little space here. The kitchen was just not motivating. I was always like, I don't feel like carrying my stuff downstairs and setting up a mirror downstairs. And then like, if he needs to use the kitchen, it's like, I'm in there trying to take a class. I was like, this is just not working. But this at least gives me a space to kind of, at least if nothing else, do flat shoe stuff like bar. And I can still do little bits of stuff. I think I just need to, one, wear stronger shoes because some of the ones I put on were dying, but also wear more toe padding. I also just cut my toenails recently too, so I think they're just uneven. But yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at right now. I don't know that I plan to ever go back to in-person classes because, to be honest, I've gotten so used to doing things here from, or not here, but at home for myself for the last few years. I enjoy the freedom that brings. I enjoy watching and following along with like Tyler Peck and Catherine Morgan and these people that I've looked up to for so many years, while also knowing if I need to just take a break and not do Adagio, not do Petit Allegro, which I probably should do, or I mean I love Adagio, so it's never Adagio, it's always the Petit Allegro, or like frappes and things like that, which I know I should do. But there are days where that's just not, my body's not feeling it. Sometimes my body really doesn't feel plies. That's the one that bothers me the most because of my knee issues. So I love the fact that I don't have to feel like I'm giving excuses to everybody, and I can just chill and be like, I'm just gonna skip this part. I'll do my own warm up, but I'm gonna skip this part. And then, you know, I put on whatever I'm comfortable in here. I can literally just walk in another room and do some stuff. I don't have to worry about like driving somewhere. There's nowhere near here to take classes. There's none as an adult. Like, would I love to do more in the future? Like, if there was like another opportunity, kind of like the Salt Lake trip or something, maybe. At the same time though, I kind of want to use all my vacation time anymore to do stuff with my husband. So it might be like my old trips where whenever I would go on a business trip or something, I would always try and find the ballet studio there and take a class. Like that's how I took a class at like Pittsburgh Ballet Theater. And at Nashville Ballet, I feel like there's at least one other I took a class at that I'm forgetting right now. Oh, I took one at Lines. I don't count that class. Lines was not a good place. I would not recommend going back there in San Francisco. I wish I could have done San Francisco Ballet, but they were on like holiday at that point. Lines was not a good experience. And maybe it was just me, but they were very rude and I just did not have a good experience there. But yeah, that's what I like to do. So it could be something even as simple as like one day while we're there, he goes golfing or something and I go take a ballet class. Like it's still something to make me feel like I'm getting involved in places. Like I would love to go somewhere like some of my friends that have these great adult classes. Like I think I want to say it's Kansas City or Jana. I can't remember, but like some of these people I've followed on Instagram for years have great places to take class as an adult, and I would love to do that. And especially if I could take it with people I know. That's why taking the classes in London with everybody was so cool. So I'm gonna keep rambling and I really need to go try these on. So let's go try those on now. And then I'm gonna stop talking and finish sewing, but I just wanna, and then you guys can see how this works too. So let's grab my little toe pads. Let's see, can you see me if I'm here? I might need to switch this camera a little bit, sorry. Okay. So I'm gonna put these on. I'm just gonna try and see which foot feels better because apparently I never marked them, which is weird. I usually do. I don't see any marks on them at all. So put it on. And again, these are the Block Heritage Strong. They are not the original Block Heritage because those die too quickly for me. Can't tell. I feel like that left one's really pushing me over a lot. Let me just double check. I'm gonna try my other foot really quick to make sure before I decide for sure. This is what I have to do with every new pair because I never know which one is going to fit the best. And yeah, that right one feels, or the left one feels weird in this foot, so that's gonna be, we're gonna mark it. This is now gonna be my right shoe. I got my little pen, which this pen is very old. It's from my days when I was wearing like a lot of Russian points because it's a Russian point pen that they sent me for free. It's funny to think how many different shoes I've been through in that time too, because when I was working up in Dayton, I was wearing mostly my Encores. I started in Reuben. I was like, this is the most amazing shoe ever. But I like to 3/4 mine. And then when I learned that it's easier to do on other shoes like the Encore, I was like, this is the best shoe ever. And then also my Heritage was what I was wearing at the same point too. The regular Heritage. But yeah, so that is my ballet story. If I keep talking, I could talk forever. So if you have any questions about it, just feel free to ask. But I just thought that might be interesting for you guys to know because it's been a few years since I've done an updated one. So I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.